Yes, g'day. Welcome to the special edition of BackChat. We have the man of the moment, the great man himself. Dan is our guest on the podcast. Dan Ricciardo.
Dan Ricciardo.
Not Dan Const.
Not Dan Const.
Dan Const, Will Schofield here for BackChat. A very, very big thank you to our sponsors, our partners, Whippersnapper, Bluebet, Margaret River Roasting Co., Shelter, Leadville Cameras, and of course, Dean Bradley. They're the guys that look after us. And we are bringing to you a really good chat with Dan Ricciardo. It's not the longest.
No, it's not. He's a tough guy to pin down.
He is. So have a listen, tune in. Daniel Ricciardo, if you want to support us, backchatpodcast.com.au. Hang around at the back end. We're gonna have a sit down, Dan and myself, and let you know how the chat came about, the background and insights into sitting down with a F1 driver, the paddock access. We're going to get right into it after the chat, but here's Dan Ricciardo. So I was sitting down with your great man, Michael Italiano, trying to prepare for a bit of an interview we did with him and came across some footage, Daniel, okay? Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen the footage. I was aware that this happened, but I was kind of busy that I kind of just got lost in the... And I watched the vision and it gave me full tingles, like full spine, like hair standing up.
I think I know what this is.
I don't have the footage. I just got a photo. Can you remember this?
Yeah,
mate. Can you tell me Tell me what happened there?
I was losing. All right, so
talk me through that story of how that happened.
Obviously, 2018.
My man,
GF
2018 grand final.
So we were in Sochi, and there's not always like a whole lot to do in Sochi, but it was grand final weekend, and I was like, this is good. We got a big event on.
Yes.
So we started watching it in one area, in like some little TV compound, on some little deck chairs.
This is race weekend though.
Yeah, this is Saturday.
I've seen you now on race weekend. How did you get time to fit in a 3.5 hour game of football?
Just committed to the game, really.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got up early, watched it, and we were all keen. We were up for it. And like as I said, we had to... Anyway, so first quarter, I remember... Well, you remember better than me. It was... a terrible first quarter.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd thrown stuff. I was way too animated. And I was pretty much like, I kind of don't even want to watch this because I'm going to get so mad and I've got qualifying and I'm just going to be not in a good place. But I was like, I got to watch it. You never know what can happen.
Yes.
So then we eventually moved into the Red Bull motorhome. So we got comfortable. We had some breakfast, got them to set the game up. And all of a sudden... the boys are back in town.
Yes.
And then I was so jacked up. Yeah, I'm a very passionate sports fan. Like if I'm watching, I can't sit in silence.
The vision I saw was like on the siren. Just
veins everywhere.
Fremantle fan Michael Italiano was next to you, right? Because I had him on the podcast on BackChat and I said, mate, why when you stood up and your veins were popping out of your neck?
Yeah.
I didn't even see him clap, not a smile. Why are you working with Fremantle people? What happens if Fremantle wins the flag this year? Have you thought about that?
You know what? I'm
actually for it.
You're gonna.
I'm flagman. I'm all
okay. All right.
Flagmantle, mate.
I was gonna say like I'm at it. As passionate as I am about sport and as much as I love watching it, I'm past the point of like hating a team or anything like that.
Yes.
I think because I certainly like understand a bit more about an athlete now and I respect everyone's journey. So. Of course, I'm still going to have my team, but like, if Freo go and win a flag this year, good on them.
Western Australia.
Long time coming. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I've got a saying to throw at you, right?
Okay.
Forwards sign, sell memberships. Forwards sell memberships. Mids sign sponsorships. Backs win premierships. What are you? If you're an AFL player, what are you?
I'm just the little guy that runs everywhere.
You're either a forward, a mid, or a back. And I'll tell you right now, you're not a back.
No, he's a winger. He's a seagull.
He's a seagull.
The size of him. He ain't good for the half.
Mids
Yeah, mate.
sign
Do you know what I'm good for?
sponsorships.
Do you know what? Yeah, I sign sponsorships.
So
that's me. Look,
basically,
GQ.
It's the men's department, the looks department, and the money department.
yeah.
Or are you on the bench?
No. One thing I will say is that whistle blows and that siren goes, I'm running all day. Yeah.
Is that another saying?
Nah, just
that
made it
whistle
up.
goes.
That was beautiful though.
What?
So the only like the early years of me playing team sports, that was like the only thing I was really good for was I would just chase the ball. I just would not give up.
We ask our guests on BackChat, first question. Michael had it, answered it very well. We're asking your man Blake at some time as well. We ask them, right, we have you on and we go, okay, you're an absolute champion, mate. You're an F1 driver. You've won races. You're an incredible athlete, but I'm here to tell you I don't really care.
Yeah.
I want to know your greatest sporting achievement, not on the racetrack. You can't tell me that you've won races. It doesn't matter. I want to know greatest sporting achievement. I was the under-9 state 80-metre hurdling champion. Dan Const, my partner in crime, took 5 for 16 in a cricket grand final.
Yeah, you look like a cricketer.
And what can you do other than driving? Give me your greatest sporting achievement, not on the track.
I was good at cross country as a kid.
Look, give it to me. This is good.
Well, I say I was good. I came 4th in inter-school. So I wasn't a gun. Do you want me to sum up my sporting achievements
Yes,
off
please.
the racetrack?
Yes, please.
Good at everything, great at nothing.
Master of all trades, jack of all
Jack
trades,
of all
master of none.
trades. Yeah. And I'm probably not doing myself justice. I feel I'm great at
What's the
something today.
Mate, you must have done something. You must have had a medal on the
Table
wall.
tennis. I'm really good at table tennis.
Bring up table tennis, mate. do you
That's how we met.
table tennis?
Yeah.
When I beat you in table tennis?
I don't think you beat me.
I think I did.
Yeah, you probably did.
Last question.
I probably bowled Stoinis out at some point in backyard cricket too. I didn't. He was so much better.
You've got to claim that though. Last question. Where are you going to be next year other than... No, just joking. I'm just joking.
Hook, line and sinker. Hook, line and sinker.
I have one last question.
Let that go through. Oh, fucking bold.
Right. One thing you got to know about Blake.
Security.
Blake is he's 2 people. He's the sweetest guy ever, but he's also fucking ruthless. He's both.
No, I have one. I have one last question. It's got to be F1 related. I'm going to ask you one F1 question, but it's AFL related.
Yeah.
If we go to the paddock right now, the 20 drivers, and you take yourself out of it, who could play?
Who am I poaching?
Who could you put into an AFL team? Who's the most likely bloke in that paddock to be able to go out and play AFL? I feel like it's a good question.
It is. So, only from experience. Okay, so
And why?
some are certainly it's really weird. I say some. Quite a few race car drivers I've seen are only good at race car
Yeah,
driving.
like you. Because you couldn't answer.
But even hand-eye coordination,
Right.
it's kind of bad because sometimes you'll do activities with some drivers and they can't even catch. I'm not even kidding. You're all right. Anyway,
We're going to take the footy into
so
the paddock and test
I want to
it
see
out.
what they're like.
Yeah.
But actually, so I spent quite a few years with Max, and we did a few things with soccer balls. We did some stuff with American football. Went to a college to kick some balls and that. He's got a really good kick on him.
Max.
Yeah. So in terms of putting his foot through a ball, Max is definitely going to be okay.
I didn't
and
think
he's
that.
quite stocky. I think he'd be built pretty well. So that's my quick answer. Who I'm a safe bet with Max being
I was
not
kinda
an embarrassment.
I was kind of hoping to be like Yuki or something, just this little pocket rocket, get him in the middle, couple of little balks, couple of little spins, kick a couple, little Willie Rioli type setup. Just
I mean, he probably is. I haven't seen it.
great, mate. I'm not even gonna wrap it up. Good man. Well done.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
No worries.
Well, there you have it. I know. I told you it was short, sharp. But we're back here in BackChat Studios. We're back from Europe. That was filmed, of course, in his motorhome.
Yeah. A motorhome's a nice way of... It's probably a downgrade from what you're saying.
We're going to get into how this all came about. I think the insight's probably worth a listen. So, look, if you want to shut down and turn off now, go for your life. But I think it's interesting how this all came about. So
That's right.
We started putting it all together probably about 6 to 8 weeks before we actually flew to Europe. We did have to go and fund the whole thing.
Last minute.
Yeah, we had to go and fund out the whole thing ourselves. There was... probably questions around COVID protocols over there to start, like how all that works. So to get our accommodation sorted, our flight sorted, did all that ourselves. KO came on as a partner, and that was terrific for us. We did some social content for them, but the entire pitch, both to Daniel Ricciardo and his management, and then guys that helped get us over there, and KO, Bluebet, both came on board. Was initially it was pitched as an insight piece. Yeah, it was like tag Daniel Ricciardo around the paddock,
stay in his pocket.
We're talking Tony Liberatore type stuff, where just follow him around, see what he does, because there's been a lot of interest and following of F1 from people that don't know a lot about it from Drive to Survive, right?
Yeah, that's how I got into it.
Yeah, same as me, really. Like, I've been following Dan's career for a long time. Yeah. So wanted to provide that insight and access to an F1 driver that you get a bit of it in Drive to Survive, but we wanted to get sort of even further behind the covers and not his actual covers.
No,
I'm sure he would happily have us there. But it was started with, I met Dan Ricciardo playing table tennis in the West Coast Eagles club rooms.
Apparently he's quite good at table tennis.
12 years ago. Look, he beat me quite convincingly, but I tell everyone I beat him. But since then, we've stayed in touch. So there has been that personal connection. Reached out to him about 6 to 8 weeks before we went to Europe and kind of pitched that idea. Why don't we show the people of Australia what it's like to be an F1 driver and what it's really like. Not
a produced Netflix show.
Yeah, which is, you get good insight, but they sit down for interviews. We wanted to sort of film him coming in and out of media, filming him at appearances.
Fly on the wall type stuff.
And honestly, they were like, great, we fucking love it. Yeah. That's his management. And Dan, it was like, really would like to show people what it's really all about. Yep. So we got the go-ahead, got the all clear, thought, okay, let's do this. And then we went into flights, staffing, that sort of stuff, equipment.
I will just say quickly from my point of view, you mentioned it maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago. You're like, hey, I'm thinking about trying to get over to Europe, follow down for a bit. Like, you should come. And I was like, oh, yeah. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, probably not going to happen. Yeah. About 3 weeks before we left, you're like, hey, I need your passport number. Thanks for going. And I was like, oh, okay. It's all happening.
That was pretty much the chat between us both. Yeah. 4 months. Do you want to do it? You're like, yeah, of course I do.
Yeah, of course, if it can happen.
And then next minute passport number.
Yeah, and I had to say to my wife, I'm going to Belgium in 3 weeks. It was an interesting chat, but we got there. We really did.
Yep, we did. So we had it all cleared off, and from the 6 weeks out where we got it ticked off, and then we went to organising everything, and we had sponsors come on board, and it was a big process. It was stressful, and we had BackChat going in the background. Within that 6 weeks, of course, Daniel Ricciardo effectively gets himself sacked from McLaren. And wherever you want to fall on that, not really doing an F1 breakdown here. No. But that's what happened. He got sacked.
Mm-hmm. He was contracted for next year, and someone else is coming in and taking his spot.
Yeah, so that happened. So not only, I guess, first of all, it created more interest in the F1, especially in Australia, given Piastri was the guy taking his job. Mark Webber is the manager of Piastri, so he's the former F1 Australian champ.
And Daniel essentially took Mark Webber's seat at Red Bull.
So it was exciting to say. I was like, wow, we couldn't be getting dropped into a more exciting pot of but then, I guess on reflection, it made things a lot harder. Again, in all honesty, like Riccardo's team, be it McLaren as well as management, as well as Dan himself, were put in a tricky position because he was contracted. McLaren effectively voided the contract, and there was some real politics being played behind the scenes, and we were getting dropped into that, i.e. on the Wednesday. We got there Thursday. Yep. On the Wednesday night, it was announced that it was happening. It was always rumoured, but Wednesday night was confirmed.
Writing was on the wall for a while.
So we get there Thursday morning, and he's been sacked from a job that he's had for 10 years.
That's right.
In the F1. So, I mean, in the end, it probably wasn't a positive thing for our insight piece because they had to effectively close the doors and say, we're not doing any external media, whether we know it or not. Yeah, it was fair enough, but selfishly, it made things difficult once we got over there.
Oh, very hard.
So that's why, it's a bit of an explanation of why, this big piece we were building kind of got shortened to the chat you just listened to, which was fun, right?
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, hopefully you just listened to it. Hopefully it was fun.
The only time you see Daniel Ricciardo at the moment sit down with anyone, it's with the McLaren team, and it's him naming like 10 Australian things that people wouldn't get, or
So this was in the second week that we were in Europe. The first week was just a shit show. Like, it was pretty much press conferences, Daniel answering questions around his future. which we had a bit of pressure on us, given that we're, one of the only Australian journalists, and I use journalists in inverted commas, over there. It was like, what's he doing next year? Get us the answers. Want to sit down with him for an hour, talk about his future.
That's right.
Those who have listened to the podcast for a long time know that that's not really what we're about. We're not really a news breaking
Scoopy stuff.
We're not kind of built like that. So it put us in a difficult position too, because the fact of the matter is we were there and that was happening, but it was like, well, we're here to do an insight piece, and now it's turning into a news breaking piece.
That's right.
It was something new for us to learn about, but
and at the same time, and Dan literally had no answers. Like you could ask him where you're driving next season, and he, there's a lot up in the air. It wasn't like he just was holding back. He didn't want to tell anyone.
We saw him every day.
He legitimately was like in the whirlwind as much as everyone else.
Yeah. So, look, I guess I just want to explain that from production and content point of view from our side of things. We probably had, or I certainly had grander plans for like a big sit down and talk
proper
about
BackChat episode.
Talk all things F1, which, look, it didn't eventuate, but what did eventuate was that sit down, which honestly is probably more our style. We ended up like trekking through sand dunes from, it was in Zandvoort in Netherlands. And to get to the motorhomes, you could like take a 6 kilometre round journey around the track or cut straight through the guts over sand dunes.
We jumped fences.
Yeah, you actually struggled.
I cut my hand and it got infected.
You're very distressed about that.
What a tetanus.
Yeah, you were researching tetanus. Anyway, we end up in this, it was so random. Like there's so much money and so much fame with the F1, and we come through this sand dune into like, it was like a Call of Duty map. It was kind of like
a big car
housing.
Park
It was like
concrete building.
Yeah, like community housing almost. And then it was like a hotel at the back, but it didn't look like a very good hotel. And there was just all these fucking motorhomes packed into this car park, and they were all the F1 drivers. Like there was 12 of them there, all back to back to back to back.
Like
kind of looked like a Tetris that like someone was doing it drunk and kind of didn't get it right, and they just chucked them all together.
Or it was like at the back of like a DHL depot with just a bunch of trucks.
But the depot had an F1 party there. So when we rock up, there's just music cranking. And I don't know if you can hear it much in the interview, but there is this like sing-along music being played track after track after track. And these guys, this is like 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
These guys are getting ready to go to bed, and there's this huge party happening.
Yeah.
So
even
it was
Daniel
just,
was like, is this gonna happen all night?
Yeah. It was just funny in the whole scheme of things of 2 weeks of really strict access in terms of like the actual passes we had, the access that was provided, and fame and money, and then we just find ourselves sitting on a couch in a motorhome, which was like a loose term for what that was. It was just like a trailer.
Yep.
I
think at one point, like
it was very real. It was
very real
compared to all the other stuff, which is like surreal,
polished.
Yeah.
What was Daniel like for you at his workplace? Effectively, like you see him on the screen, he's this like super fun guy, and he's professional, like he's an elite athlete. But what did you find him to be like when you were just like walking around and spotting him?
Well, probably more like an athlete. I think what people see is like, laughing Daniel Ricciardo in front of the cameras, happy-go-lucky, just like he's cruising around. Like, he's a nice guy. That doesn't change.
Super,
But when you see behind the scenes more, he's focused. Like a lot of I would say like 70, 80% of the time, he's just either going to he's got like a locker room, which is in like another big motorhome. This one's like a proper polished McLaren one, but he has like his own room in there. He's either pumping in there, getting changed into race kit, getting changed into sponsor gear, a lot of back and forth. And game face on like 78% of the time, I reckon.
And no real downtime. Like he might stop for a meal, stop for lunch, stop for dinner, but he's either going to like you said, a press conference or a meeting with his engineers. He's like full-time workplace.
We had the schedule. Remember we had the schedule in Belgium.
Right,
and there was no gaps. That was another thing. It was like, shit, like, even if we hadn't got this insight, I don't know where we would have fit in it. Like, you wouldn't have had an hour to do a sit
He would have
down,
had to give it, like, late at night.
which I was surprised with, which has ended up what we ended up, pulling together. But, look,
One thing we did get, though, was a long chat with Michael Italiano, his personal trainer, which was super interesting, and you can go back and listen to that. That was a really good chat. And I think people would see Michael Italiano on, like, our feed and go, like, I don't really know who that is, might not listen. But he's literally the guy that stands with Daniel, like, he's with Daniel all the time, knows him inside out.
If you're a dodgeball fan, he's his consigliere. He's like he preps his helmets. He gives him drink bottles while he's driving.
Yeah.
He's like his guy. game day. He's like
Yeah.
his personal coach.
Yeah.
But then outside of game day, he does everything else with him too. Preps his meals, all his fitness regime, his sleep routines, his travel routines. Like he's his guy.
He's also just his good mate as well.
You can hear him laughing when we have a bit of a laugh about where he's doing next year.
Yeah.
I think if you watched it on YouTube, you would have seen him.
Yep.
They all stay together. Like they all stay together at the track. Blake is his manager, who's is there too. They're kind of like this threesome of guys that they're all Aussies.
Yep.
Kind of like the only Aussies in the paddock kind of thing.
Yeah. They'll go out to dinner together. Like they stick together. They're a real solid team.
Yeah.
And then we actually saw them all at Optus Stadium.
Oh yeah.
A few weeks later, which is funny. We with that trip all wound up and it was awesome. We go back to Perth. How many weeks later?
Should we just not have gone to Europe? We could have just caught him at Optus Stadium.
2 or 3 weeks later, you text me one Wednesday morning. You called me. You're like,
It was the same as the Europe
Yeah,
trip.
you're like, hey, what are you doing today? I was like, a few things, this and that. You said, oh, cool. We need to go Optus Stadium. Daniel Ricciardo's there. I was like, okay. so we drive in. What was that even for?
Oh mate, it's pretty funny. Like I think we could talk about it. Like it was like 2 days before the Optus breach of personal
Which
data
we had
breach.
nothing to do with.
So it was at Optus Stadium announcing Daniel's new partnership with Optus. We should check his Instagram profile to see if he deleted that off his profile.
Yeah.
So
Chief of Optimism.
Well, they're going to fucking need some optimism down at Optus. They were really great. They organised me effectively to have a kick on the footy field with Dan. So
The reason why is funny though, which is because they wanted a Daniel to go be at Optus Stadium, have a kick around on the field with an Eagles player.
Yeah.
He's an Eagles fan and he wanted that. And then they came into the problem that the AFL is sponsored by Telstra.
Yes.
And players, like you can't do anything for anyone else, right?
No, it's like a conflicting relationship.
Exactly.
Optus
So
and Telstra.
then they see that Will Schofield has been in Europe with Daniel and they give you a call.
Yeah, correct. So that was, it was cool having a kick on the park with Dan. Like it would have been nice to drive one of his cars while we were in Europe. Like
Only fair.
That's the equivalent though. Like I'm taking him out in the oval, giving him a kick and showing him what to do.
Yeah.
Did he let us sit in the car?
No, he didn't.
No, I mean
Selfish.
Yeah, I sort of can see the boundaries there, but it was cool, and probably caught up with him as much, if not more, within the bowels of Optus Stadium than when we flew to fucking Europe and took 3 people over with us. But I think he's probably getting to a stage where it's a little bit more relaxed. I think it's come out recently that he's potentially weighing up being a backup driver for a big team like a Mercedes or a Red Bull or something like that, over being a driver in the paddock. So who knows what his future will hold. As you can hear, he's a big footy fan as well. So he's always got a footy with him. He's got this mini footy that he carries around, and we had a bit of fun with that over the journey, kicking the footy around. I wore an Akuba a couple of days in there. We really played on the Aussie thing.
Oh yeah. And the other good thing about being in the paddock with him, because people pay a lot of money. I think £5,000 to £7,000 to get into the area that we had access to. Right?
Did we pay that?
No, hell no.
Okay.
But when we were there, because we knew Dan and he would come up, like he was familiar with us, he would come up and just give us
tap
on the shoulder, like, hey, what's up? And then
how many times did you do that? It sounds like you're kidding.
3 or 4. Like it was great. But at the same time, you had these people that paid thousands of dollars to be there and would chase after drivers for selfies, for autographs. And we're just there. Dan comes over and you just, like, there was a couple of times people were like, oh my gosh, who are these guys? We're literally no one.
No one.
Absolutely no one.
Sorry to kill you guys.
But we're just a couple of guys from Perth that Dan seems to have. He friends with you, but just some familiarity of Aussies. So there was a couple of points where we felt like big dogs.
I messaged Dan when I knew we were going to have a kick on the part with. I was like, maybe we could get a photo together, because like the entire time in Europe didn't get a photo with him.
Yeah.
You guys, I took some photos of you
I
guys. I
fanboyed hard.
Yeah, I was like, it sort of felt weird for me, like getting a fan photo. Then I was like, I probably should have just got like one photo with him. Didn't get one. Optus Stadium, get one. Didn't get one on Optus either. Like nothing.
That's all right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Just want to let everyone know that Daniel Ricciardo is my friend.
Yeah, he is. You guys are best buds. You dapped up, you hugged. I saw it with my own eyes.
So yeah, we'll have a bit of a clip dropping on Instagram from our Optus trip, but we've had to hold it a little bit given the controversy.
Yeah.
But like, hey, like Dan said, it's not our fault that.
No, it's not. The timing of him, the issues with McLaren weren't great for us, and now the timing.
Everything we
Optus.
touch turns to blue.
Blue, yeah, that's right.
That's it. Hope you enjoyed the chat with Daniel Rick. Thought we'd give you some context. Hit us up in the socials, BackChat _, if you want to know anything more about that, what we're doing there. And maybe we can do it another time with another superstar.